Hey everyone, welcome to Unfiltered, the voice of truth in a confused culture. As usual, my name is Jason, and this is a place where we slow things down for a few minutes each week. We think clearly and bring everything back to truth. Because the Bible says when you know the truth will set you free. Why? Because the louder culture gets, the easier it becomes to lose clarity about who you are and what you believe and what actually matters. And honestly, I think one of the biggest struggles people have today is the constant pressure to be understood, accepted, approved of, and validated by everyone around them. People may not say it that way out loud, but you can see it everywhere around them. Thank God I have the gift of not caring what other people think. I think it's also a curse sometimes because of my opinion. People are so afraid to speak honestly because they don't want the backlash. They're afraid to stand firm in their beliefs because they don't want criticism. I also believe people are afraid to disappoint anyone because they don't want to feel rejected. And so instead of living with conviction, a lot of people spend their lives managing their perceptions. That just hurts to even talk about that because, man, why are we trying to keep everybody happy? Why are we trying to avoid tension or trying to make sure that nobody misunderstands them? I can just tell you right now, being a pastor, being on this podcast, I can say everything the right way. But there are going to be people out there that are going to take what I say and they're going to misunderstand what I'm trying to tell them. And I'm just saying it happens everywhere. And the problem with that is eventually you can lose yourself trying to make everyone else comfortable. And I think social media has made this much worse. Why do I think that? Excuse me. Because now everybody has access to everybody's opinion all the time. I mean, years ago, you might have had a small circle of voices speaking into your life. Now, you can post one thing and instantly feel the pressure of hundreds of opinions, reactions, assumptions, and judgments. And you don't even have to be wrong. There are just so many different opinions out there. And then what you do is because if you're not careful, you'll slowly start living for approval without even realizing it. You'll start editing yourself consistently or constantly. You'll start to overthink the things that you want to say. You'll replay those conversations that you had in your head where somebody didn't agree with you. You'll begin to worry about how people interpreted what you said, and you got to change all your words for that one person or that one group of people. And then you just got this pressure to always explain yourself to everybody. Well, I can't even imagine how a person's brain is dealing with that, because I would go crazy. I would just be completely nuts if I worried about all of those things, because eventually you will become emotionally exhausted to a place where you should have never carried the weight of everyone else's expectation. And that is the one thing that I have learned over the last several years. You can love people deeply and still disappoint them. Matter of fact, you can have good intentions and still be misunderstood. You can even do the right thing and still get criticized for it. And honestly, that is so hard for people who genuinely care about others. Most healthy people do not enjoy disappointing people. Heck, I don't even like disappointing people. But most healthy people don't enjoy conflict either. They don't enjoy the criticism. As much as you might think that I enjoy conflict and criticism, you are dead wrong. I do not like criticism and conflict. It's not something I enjoy all the time. I actually know that there are just times I have to say things because it's the right thing to say. If you're going to live with conviction, there will be moments where people misunderstand your heart, they begin to question your motives, and they're going to disagree with your decisions. But that's why God chose you to be a leader. You're leading those people. This is not automatic or it doesn't mean automatically that you're wrong either if somebody misunderstands you. I think sometimes we assume that tension means failure, but tension is often part of leadership. It's part of the growth and the truth and the conviction that we live. I mean, if you look at Jesus himself, he was constantly misunderstood by many people. People misunderstood his words. They misunderstood his intentions. They misunderstood his mission. And there were people that loved him. There were people that criticized him. And heck, there were some people, actually quite a few people, that just walked away from him. And yet Jesus never built his life around trying to make everyone comfortable. He loved people completely, but he was not controlled by public opinion. And I think that is one of the hardest tensions for people to learn today. It's something I learned a long time ago, and it's the reason why I can be so confident in what I'm saying. I mean, how do you stay compassionate without becoming controlled by people's reactions? How do you stay kind without compromising truth? That one has been tough for me. How do we stay humble without becoming insecure? And how do we stay open to correction without becoming emotionally dependent on validation? There is a difference between being teachable and being controlled by approval. Teachable means that people listen. Or I think if I'm going to be teachable, I have to listen to what other people are sharing with me. It doesn't mean I have to agree with all of it, but I need to at least listen because there could be something that they're saying to me that I can learn. Approval-driven people, what do? They panic. And that's why I think a lot of people today are carrying anxiety because they're trying to maintain an image instead of simply living honestly. The Bible actually talks about when you're living an honest life, you can walk in confidence, just knowing that you're doing the right thing and God's got your back. They are trying, because if you're trying to maintain this image, then you're trying to make sure everybody likes you and everybody agrees with you and everybody understands you. And I mean, that can be so exhausting because here's the truth. No matter how careful you live your life, some people will always misunderstand you. There are people who are only going to see part of your story. They're only going to pick up the things that they want to hear. And they got a lot of confirmation bias that takes place. There will be people that will project their own wounds onto you. And there will be people that will interpret your boundaries as rejection because people don't like when we set up boundaries. There will be people who will interpret your conviction as judgment. It's your conviction. But for some reason, they look at it as judgment. And then lastly, some people will criticize decisions they never had responsibility to carry. Well, guess what? That's just part of life. That's just the way it goes. And honestly, maturity is learning. Not every misunderstanding requires a reaction. You don't have to chase everybody down and try to explain to them what you mean and oh, you misunderstood me and I need to explain everything. No. That's not your responsibility. It's difficult to do in our culture because it trains us to respond to everything. It says define yourself and explain yourself and correct every assumption because you don't want to be misunderstood and you got to win every argument or control every narrative. I do think you can get out in front of some things to control the narrative, but still people will twist that and change that to what they want. Peace usually disappears when you feel responsible to manage everybody's perception of you. And at some point, you have to become secure enough in who you are and who God called you to be to stop living emotionally controlled by opinions. Now, this does not mean you're arrogant or prideful. It doesn't mean that you ignore wisdom or correction and say things like, that's just who I am. And if people don't like it, they can just get over it. No. That's not being teachable. Honestly, what I think is you have to work harder when you're a leader or a parent or a pastor or a business owner or really anybody carrying any responsibility. We got to work harder not to be like that because leadership automatically creates opinions. If you lead long enough, somebody is going to disagree with you. Somebody will misinterpret you. They will question your motives and they will leave disappointed. That doesn't mean you failed. It just means that they did not agree. And actually being a leader gets very lonely because you're at the top and it's real easy to be in the cheap seats and tell everybody else what you would do, but you're not responsible for it. So it's much easier to tell them what you would do if you were in that seat. But when you get in that seat, now you feel that pressure. I mean, obviously, we should always examine ourselves honestly. We should stay humble enough to grow and apologize when we make mistakes and let people know that we're wrong. Pride does not help anybody. Defensiveness does not help anybody. That's the one I got to work on. I don't like to be defensive. I don't try to be defensive, but sometimes when it's personal, I get defensive. There's also a lot of danger in becoming so emotionally dependent on approval that you lose conviction completely. Because eventually you stop asking, what is right? And instead you start asking, what will create the least resistance? And those are not the same thing. The right decision will create tension, and truth will create discomfort. Obedience does cost you something. And I think about how many people stay silent today, not because they don't know the truth, but because they are afraid of the reactions. They are afraid of criticism and labels and losing relationships and standing alone. I understand that fear because nobody enjoys rejection, but living for approval becomes exhausting because it never ends. Even if people approve of you today, you will still feel the pressure to maintain it tomorrow. Guess what? That's not freedom. Freedom is being able to live honestly before God without constantly being emotionally tossed around by the public opinion. And I think some people listening to this are tired because they have spent years trying to carry expectations they were never supposed to carry. They were trying to keep everybody happy or, fix everybody's opinion and really honestly trying to make sure that nobody gets upset. And somewhere along the way, those people lost their peace because peace disappears when your identity becomes attached to everybody else's response to you. That's why your identity has to be anchored deeper than public opinion. If people's praise builds you, then people's criticism will destroy you. I want to say that again. If people's praise builds you, then people's criticism will destroy you. You cannot build your emotional stability on reactions that constantly change because one day people will celebrate you and the next day they'll criticize you. Why is that? Because culture is inconsistent. Opinions and emotions are inconsistent, and that is why your foundation has to be much stronger than that. And I think one of the healthiest things a person can learn is this. You do not need everyone to understand you in order to walk in peace. Because some people will not understand your heart and some will. Some people will see your intentions clearly, but some won't. Some people will stay and some will leave. You cannot control all of that. Trust me, being a pastor, I have dealt with every one of these things. And what tends to happen, especially with pastors, is if we're not careful, we start changing who we are. We start chasing after the people that don't want to be here, and we forget about the ones that are here. And that's where I want to land today. Living with conviction in a confused culture will sometimes feel lonely. There will be moments where doing the right thing is misunderstood. There will be moments where truth creates tension. There will be moments where you disappoint people simply because you could not carry every expectation that they placed on you. But that does not mean that you stop loving people. It does not mean you stop telling the truth. It means you stop needing universal approval in order to have peace. This is something, once again, I had to deal with several years ago, especially when I got on the podcast. I started talking about cultural, social, and biblical things. I had a lot of people not approve of how I was doing it. And sure, have I learned over the years that I could say it a little bit differently? Yes. But when you're passionate about things, sometimes it kind of comes off a little bit hard. Sometimes I'm super confident in what I believe in. It comes off very arrogant. I've had to deal with people that know me, they hear me, and oh man, he just sounds super prideful. But I don't worry about it. I just take what I can. I learn from the people I know that love me, and I work on me as much as I can. Because at the end of the day, peace does not come from everybody agreeing with you. Peace comes from knowing you are walking honestly with God. And honestly, that kind of peace becomes really powerful in a culture where everybody is constantly performing, defending, proving, and reaching. So let me say it like this. If you're exhausted today from carrying the weight of everybody's expectation, maybe this is your reminder. You do not need everyone to understand you in order to live faithfully. Stay humble, stay teachable, stay compassionate, but stay grounded in your faith, because truth still matters even when culture says it doesn't. Listen, if this episode has helped you, I want you to share it with someone who needs it. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel because you don't want to miss what's coming next. We're just getting started. I love you guys. Have a great week.